Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Hey guys, this is my Nux application tutorial from the film Mad Max Fury Road. If you haven't seen it yet, oh my god, you have to go see it right now. It was amazing, and the amount of characters and makeups and costuming and just all these amazing cool details and things that they created. It's just like, man, George Miller is a genius. It is stunning, and my mind is blown. I literally had trouble sleeping the night that I saw it because I was just so amped up. So I'll talk a little bit about the look before I go into it if you're curious about information. The design was George Miller himself, and also the head of department for makeup and hair, Leslie Vanderbilt. And so they kind of designed most of the looks thinking about George's direction of having this post-apocalyptic wasteland. And so they're kind of looking at the environment that the characters could come from, which tribe they were a part of, and what they would have available to them. This is just me reading from an article that I can post below, which is kind of interesting. So Leslie Vanderbilt also said that she referenced the oil fields in Angola, the workers of Salgado, the rubbish heaps in the Philippines, and other bleak environments. She also looked at African tribal and Indian religious festivals and Polynesian and Maori scarification. So if you're ever thinking, how do I find inspiration for looks? What kind of reference images can I use? This is what the pros do. And apparently I did have a lot of trouble with the War Boys being all white because I'd go out for a ride in the desert and they'd come back, instead of being white, they'd come back just being tan from the sand and the dirt and everything that got on them. So apparently it was pretty difficult keeping the makeup white and keeping everything applied through, all of the explosions and car rides. And I do know Adam Johansson of Odd Studio, and Odd Studio made all the prosthetics for Mad Max, which is pretty cool. And I'm a huge fan of Odd Studio. I saw them at IMATS in Sydney as well, and I think they went to IMATS LA, if I remember correctly. And just all the work is stunning. So if you want to check out more work by Odd Studio and photos of their makeup, and hopefully they can release some more details about the prosthetic side of things, I'll link their Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and website below, so you can check those guys out because they are insanely talented. So anyway, going into how I recreated the movie makeup and what products I decided to use. I made my own vinyl ball cap. So I've got a video on how to make your own ball cap and then how to apply and paint your ball cap. And because this isn't really specific to this look, you can use a ball cap for so many things. I've made it into its own video. First of all, I'm using a mix of Rose Adjuster and Coral Adjuster from my Light Flash Tones palette. I'm just going to use this to mark out where I want the scars to be. I'm also going to apply Dermaguard over my nose because I do want to use rigid collodion on my nose to make the indented scar, and rigid collodion is honestly really difficult to remove, and so I wouldn't recommend using it multiple days in a row, but if you're just doing it as like a one-off, it's fine. Just be aware that it does take a little bit of patience to remove it, and it does leave your skin a little bit angry. So I'm going to put Dermaguard over my nose skin just to protect it a little bit more through that process. If you're not familiar with Sculpt Gel, it is 3 parts. Part A and B are silicone, and part 3 basically acts as a deadener or a softener. So you're going to put equal parts of each onto like a mixing palette. I'm also going to put 1 drop of my silicone pigment in a light flesh tone, as I am using the clear Sculpt Gel. You can also get it in a flesh tone. You want to make sure that you do mix it really well. And then to apply the Sculpt Gel, so I'm going to use this kind of dental tool just to roughly apply it over the scars that I've made, and I'm going to go over them again and smooth them out in a minute. I'm just going to get just the basic shape out onto me. And a good way to smooth out Sculpt Gel or any of the silicone paste is if you wet your tool in isopropyl alcohol, it will help it to glide over the Sculpt Gel and smooth it out better. If you get any of Sculpt Gel on your spatula, just continually wipe it off onto a paper towel and re-dip in isopropyl alcohol, and that will really help it to be smoothed out. But it doesn't need to be super smooth because we are going to go over it now with a smaller tool and just kind of drag it through vertically to get the right scarification marks that Nux has. It kind of looks like a caterpillar or something, and you just want to kind of gently try and smooth those marks through in both directions, up and down, and kind of spread out the Sculpt Gel onto the skin. This usually takes maybe like 5 to 10 minutes to set up, and then you're good to go. You don't need any adhesive or anything, and it just pretty much peels off at the end of the day. It moves really well because it's a silicone, so I like using Sculpt Gel quite a bit. And I'm going to apply rigid collodion. I ended up applying 3 layers over my skin just to get a bit of depth in there. I did originally try doing it with Sculpt Gel and just building it up and then carving out the middle, but I didn't like that effect so much. An alternative is you can make all three of the nose and cheek scars also out of encapsulated silicone. Next I'm going to make my eyebrows look a bit more like Nux. So his eyebrows have a bit more of an arch and they do kind of curve around towards the eye a bit more. So I'm going to be using one of the darker brown colours from my grunge palette on a little tiny detailing brush. This is one of the Sigma brushes for veining, but you can also use eyeliner brushes and things as well, just as long as it's got a small tip. And you just want to draw in the eyebrow hairs, paying attention to the direction of your own eyebrow hairs and the direction of the eyebrow hairs in your reference image of Nux. Next I'm going to be applying the mouth prosthetic. I've got a video on how I made that. You can click to watch that here, just to keep this video shorter. So you're going to use Pros-Aide. You can also use Telesis. You're going to put a layer over your lips. Obviously don't put it like inside your mouth, just kind of go up to where your lips meet. And you want it to keep it thin enough so that it will dry. If you've got any clumps of it that aren't drying, you can blend those out a bit more with a cotton tip. You want to wait until it is completely clear. Put a layer of this on the back of your prosthetics and wait for that to dry as well. So this footage is from a different application. I ended up having to apply this 3 times to get it right due to bald cap complications. So that's why everything that I just did has disappeared, so don't freak out. The footage that I had of this on the 3rd application was not very clear. So you're going to want to line it up with your lips and you're going to gently press down from the center outwards and just make sure you're lining it up correctly on your lips, and then smooth out the cap plastic on the sides and underneath. Next I'm going to use my isopropyl alcohol and a cotton tip, and first of all I'm just going to get rid of the thicker part of silicone and the excess cap plastic, and I'm going to go in and start dissolving the cap plastic around the scars just to get a really smooth edge. You want to go on the top of it as well, dissolving it onto the lip, and then underneath dissolving it onto the chin and surrounding skin. And once you've dissolved it relatively well, I'm going to go ahead and do the same process on the top lip. And a layer of Pros-Aide on both the prosthetic and the lip, and waiting for it to dry clear, and then carefully positioning it in the middle and then doing one side at a time to make sure it does line up with the bottom of the lip. And then I'm going to again remove the excess cap plastic just by melting it away with isopropyl alcohol on a cotton tip and then blending out those edges again. Just take your time with this. Obviously this is like fast forward 500%, so just carefully blend out those edges, and that will make quite a good looking prosthetic if you take your time. So that's it blended out. You can also put a little bit of powder on the inside of your lips if the glue does feel a bit too sticky. Next I'm going to go in with my Skin Illustrator palette using the natural one tone just to darken up those scars to look more like my flesh tone because they were a little bit too white still. And just to match, I'm going to put that natural one tone over both of the cheek scars as well. Just to disguise what the cap plastic is, I'm going to put a little bit of Rose Adjuster mixed with Coral Adjuster from the Skin Tone palette, just in between the layers of the scars on my lips, especially at the top where the lips meet. You can kind of see the whiteness of the cap plastic, so just to disguise that better. We're going to go in with some of the white wash. So I've got this kind of tribal, like washy body paint going on in the film, and so I'm going to use a water activated cake makeup by Meren. I'm going to use a powder puff to apply it. You want to get just a little bit of water in there, you don't want it to be too wet, and you want to get a little bit of product as well from the cake. And then you can test it on the back of your hand or on your arms before applying it to your head to make sure you haven't got too much colouring, because as you can see here it started off a bit too white. And you're just going to gently kind of swipe that colour across and blend it out with your powder puff. Because it does look quite worn in the movie, obviously it's going to look better if it's not like a completely uniform coverage. So I'm first of all just going to kind of apply it all over, and then I'm going to build up areas where it's a bit whiter and a bit more built up. And then the last step is to wet the powder puff a little bit more and have no product on it, and just kind of erase some areas like it's been worn off through just daily wear. I'm going to go down onto my neck as well, so obviously if you're doing like a full body thing, you want to apply this to any exposed skin. I'm just going to stop at my neck for this tutorial. Now I'm going to use some eyeshadow to go around the eyes and the nose to give more of that skull shape to everything. I did try using cream as well, but I found that the eyeshadows gave a bit more of a uniform coverage and were a bit easier to work with. So I'm going to use one that's almost black, but it's got like a tiny bit of warmth in it because then it's just a bit easier to use. So I'm going to use the Anastasia Beverly Hills Deep Brown color, but any kind of like warmer, really dark brown, kind of between dark brown and black will work well. I'm going to build up with a denser brush on my eyelids and then use a fluffier blending brush to extend it up towards my eyebrows and then down towards the top of my cheekbones, just to kind of sink in that orbital area. And then without adding any more product onto my brush, I'm going to brush over the tip of my nose. Then I'm going to blend out the edges on top of the cheekbones just a little bit with my fingers. And if you want him to look a little bit dirtier, you can use the same blending brush that has a little bit of the eyeshadow on it and just kind of put little tiny bits of the darker color across the face. This is also footage from application number 2. I didn't end up applying the chest scars on the third application because it took so much longer than I was anticipating, and then by this stage it's probably like 10:30 p.m. But for the chest scars I'm going to be again using Sculpt Gel, and I'm only going to do the tip of it because well, I'm sure you can guess why I'm not going to do the whole chest scars. You can outline the scarification again with like some Skin Illustrated colors. You're looking at again a reference image of Nux's chest scar. I'm going to go over it all the same application method of the Sculpt Gel. And because it is quite close together, it can get a bit messy and you might need to kind of go over it and redefine it all a bit. But because it is like a homemade scar in the video, it already is quite messy anyway. So using the Sculpt Gel works quite well for this. It just takes a little while. And again, if you're going to be doing this all the time and you wanted a full chest scar, you could make your own encapsulated silicone mold, again using a flat mold to do this whole big chest scar if you really wanted to. But yes, you can see these vertical stripes are getting quite mushed together with the Sculpt Gel, but again, if you just go over it and you use your tools, and each time you use your tool you wipe off any excess silicone and you just dip it into the isopropyl alcohol, it will glide through and you can redefine them all so it looks a little bit better. I also made myself some little friends called Larry and Barry out of Sculpt Gel, but I didn't really like the way they looked, so I will just leave that out. And I'd recommend if you're going to make those, it would be easier to make them in a mold. You can even make like a cheaper gelatin mold or something for them. Yeah, and this brings us to the end of the tutorial. I do want to do a couple of other looks. We bought a bunch of Warbler and some tools and things to try and make like a Furiosa arm and to do a Furiosa cosplay because she's like the most badass character ever. So yeah, I think I also would like to do a Splendid tutorial because I think that would be a pretty easy tutorial to do, but it'd also be like kind of a pretty but kind of a badass and kind of cool tutorial for, you know, like Halloween or parties or whatever. Alright, and yeah, I'll just link here again how I made my ball cap and how I applied it. If you guys enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, please subscribe, and I will chat to you soon. Alright, bye.